back to your elementary school days. I know this might be stretching it for some of you because that was really long years ago, but do try or perhaps imagine. Think back to an experience that you possibly may have had with the school bully, or perhaps that little mean girl that is a Miss Know-it-all and wants to boss around everybody. Imagine the resentment and the resistance that you had whenever you thought of them or whenever you interacted with them. To you, this person was really not a nice person and they were very mean. And then perhaps one day, something happened. Between the two of you, there was an experience where you thought to yourself, perhaps they're not such a bad person after all. And maybe a couple of more of these experiences went on down the line and you realize, hey, this person is actually a good person. You guys became closer and you became friends. Fast forward a couple of years later, you are best of buddies and you guys are inseparable. And then you giggle every time you hash up the story about how you guys used to really not like each other and how much you guys resented each other. Yeah, I think everybody can relate to a story like that. And that's why today we're going to be speaking about how to turn your adversary into an ally. Jesus demonstrate wisdom in Matthew 5 verse 25 when he actually gives us the keys to understanding how to turn our adversaries into allies. And this lesson that he shares in this verse underpins the basis of what the law of non-resistance is all about. And I quote, he says in the verse, agree with your adversary quickly while you are with him in the way, lest perhaps the prosecutor delivers you to the judge and the judge delivers you to the officer and the officer casts you into prison. And then perhaps in a literal sense, we can get what this means, but what does it mean for our inner life and our inner understanding of ourselves? Jesus asks us in these lines to use the law of non-resistance, to use this law to actually move into inner harmony and prevent escalation to such a point that we find ourselves in bondage to that which we do not want in our lives spiritually. Perhaps you might be asking yourself, within myself, who is my adversary? And I'm sure you have an inkling as to who is your adversary within yourself. It's these thoughts that we sometimes sink into of limitation, of lack, of seeing ourselves inadequate. It's our inner critic that always has something to say when we are doing something that is outside our comfort zone. It's that sense of knowing our own weaknesses and areas that we can improve on. And Father Richard Rohr really gives us an opportunity to understand, furthermore, this line from the verse of Matthew 5 verse 25 that Jesus tells us and instructs us how to actually conduct ourselves with our adversaries. He says, our weaknesses are an invitation to cultivate virtues and inner qualities that lead us to align with our true selves, thus producing a more authentic and fulfilling life. How many of you resonate right now with what I've just read? Let it resonate with you and let it also assure you that the weaknesses that our adversaries that we see within each other, within ourselves, the weaknesses and the inadequacies and the inner incoherence that we sometimes demonstrate within our thoughts and emotions are there as opportunities for us to lean into and grow from. So perhaps you're asking yourself, okay, Nasiba, I'm hearing what you're saying, but how do I work with this law of non-resistance and actually execute in my life what Jesus says about agreeing with your adversary quickly? And I can perhaps give you 3 little points as to how you can do that immediately right now within yourself to get into a more coherent state. Number 1 is open yourself up. Be vulnerable, be curious, and be more accepting, and be more willing to work with your seeming inadequacies. And this results in that inner coherence that we're looking for. Number 2, these inner demons that we always fight and resist, these inner sort of pests that we actually get irritated within ourselves about, are not to be rejected. These demons are for us to lean into and to change our relation to them, to change our attitude in a manner where we are leaning into them without bitterness, without wanting to change them too fast, and without actually giving them more power over how we feel and how we think, thus actually working to transmute them into the angels that they are in true essence. Lastly, realize that the parts of yourself that you sometimes reject, the parts of yourself that sometimes you feel inadequate about, the parts of yourself sometimes that you chastise yourself about, are opportunities. These are opportunities that serve and fuel you to actually be better. Without these little things and little kinks that you have to iron out within yourself, there will be no fuel within you to actually reach out and be able to now start working on something that betters you and working within you to grow within yourself into the version of yourself that you want to see yourself becoming. So take these and use them and keep them in your mind as pointers to demonstrate within yourself, firstly, that turning your adversary into an ally energy.